This first lesson covers flowchart symbols and their purposes. It is important for you to be able to recognize and apply the various flowcharting symbols and understand their use. Let's get started. This lesson's objectives consist of information about flowcharting symbols, including their functions, and it will require approximately 15 minutes for you to complete. You'll use your computer, complete with a sound card and internet connection, for the review of this information. At the completion of this lesson, you should be able to complete the following task. 1. Provided with a set of 18 common flowcharting symbols for the lesson, a computer and office software, you'll match the textual name with the correct symbol with no more than 4 errors. 2. Given names and definitions for 18 flowcharting symbol types, a computer and office software, you will match the correct definition with the symbol name with no more than 2 errors. And 3. Provided with a simple scenario that includes 9 steps and the corresponding flowcharting symbols along with your computer and office software, you will identify the correct symbol associated with each task that best matches that task with no more than 2 errors. So let's take a look at flowcharting. How does it really enter in our daily lives? Well, flowcharting is a process. It is about events and the sequence they occur. Let's take wedding or vacation plans. The sequence they occur and the events as they occur are very important. If anything gets out of sequence, then our plans are not as we intended. But properly planned and executed, the events come off uninterrupted. Well, flowcharting is much the same. We want to ensure that our learning events, just as our vacation or our wedding, flow just as planned without interruption. So therefore, flowcharting is planning of events and sequences. There are many different flowcharts that you'll find in this industry. You'll find flowchart symbols in other industries that are not commonly used by instructional technologists, and for the most part I've not included those symbols. However, there are some symbols that you may use or see from other processes such as data processes, and we'll cover those in this lesson. In the first group, I have the most commonly used flowchart symbols. These you'll most often use, such as the terminator. Now, you won't always find the terminator in flowcharts, but it typically shows the start and stop of an entire process. The process box, a rectangular square, is the most often used object in instructional design flowcharts. It shows events, learning modules, lessons, and all things defined in your flowchart. There are also predefined processes. Predefined processes is something that would enter into your process that has already been defined, such as a computer program that would execute a certain event in between the learning actions. The decision diagram or symbol is a diamond that shows a decision point, usually a true/false or a yes or no decision. And depending on which step the learner or the events take them would depend on where this flows to next. Quite often you'll see an arrow coming out of one of the tips and a yes or a no showing which decision has been made. A document would be a reference document such as a PDF or an Acrobat file that gives the learner information. It's not a part of their process steps, but it is used by them in the process. Data is data, computer data, that flows to or from the process, and it may flow to or from a database, and we'll show you those symbols in just a moment. A flow line is a very important, critical part of a flowchart. It shows the direction of the process flow and what happens in what order and sequence. We'll cover sequencing in a further lesson, Lesson 3. Connector is a round circle. It shows a connection between two different flows. And when you get in more complex flow charts, you may use this, and sometimes you'll see them in data flow charts as well. And it's a jumping point from one process to another. More often you may use the off-page connector. The off-page connector would be used when you have a complex course. Maybe it's an 80-hour course that requires pages and pages just to flowchart the entire course, and each of these connectors shows the connection to a subsequent page. Sometimes you'll see the page numbers actually in this connector. Now let's talk about other symbols that you may use sometimes, but you will often see in flowcharts, usually data or technical flowcharts. Multi-document, you may use that one when you have multiple references. Manual input is more often found in data flowcharts, where a manual input is required into the system before another process can occur. Same thing with manual operation. A manual operation step requires an intervention before a subsequent process can be performed. And you may have a delay in that process. Now this one may be more pertinent to some of your designs, because the delay could be a waiting period that the learner has to wait to see the results of an action, or say an assessment that they have just performed. What is their score? And that score may have to be of a certain value before they can proceed. Now preparation can be anything that would have to occur before the process starts. For the learner, it might be as simple as turning on their computer, adjusting their sound, and loading appropriate software that the program requires. Merge, you won't see this one very often, but it means that you're merging multiple processes together into one, usually found in complex flowcharts or data flowcharts. And extract is the exact opposite, where we're splitting these processes apart, where it's one large process splitting into two. Now database, a learning management system is a database that keeps the student records. If you're showing the flow of student records or say assessments to and from a database as part of your design process, you would use a symbol. Now keep in mind this symbol is a cylinder turned right or up and down, whereas a direct storage access is a little different. It's a cylinder turned on its side. This indicates a computer's hard drive or a thumb drive or some direct access storage which the user would actually be accessing as part of their process. Now that you understand the various flowcharting symbols and their purpose, take a chance to apply them in your day-to-day lives. Everything you do that's a process can be flowcharted. Practice using them and you'll become intimately familiar with them. See you in the next lesson.